In your speech last night, you called on our European allies to aid more in the effort in Afghanistan. How specifically would you like, how many specific troops would you like to see France, Germany, Britain recommit to that effort? Would you like them to send the additional 2 to 3 brigades that you're calling for U.S. troops?
Well, I think the United States needs to send 2 additional brigades at least.
The person asked that question, of course, was reporter Juliana Goldman. She's with Bloomberg News. She's also the wife of David Schuster of this program, and I sang at the wedding. Anyway, let's take a look at who's on tonight. Joining me right now is, for the Politics Fix, DeRoy Murdoch is somewhere. We've been together recently. He's with the National Review, of course. Michelle Bernard is often with me, MSNBC political analyst, and the great Jim Popkin, who's with NBC News. I think this is kind of a free-for-all, and I think you can all sort of dump your essays on the week. John McCain today, once again, taking on Barack Obama's judgment regarding the surge of our troops the last couple of years in Iraq.
Fortunately, Senator Obama failed, not our military. We rejected the audacity of hopelessness, and we were right. Violence in Iraq fell to such low levels for such a long time that Senator Obama, detecting the success he never believed possible, falsely claimed that he'd always predicted it.
Michelle, if you're going to take a shot at somebody, should you read it off the teleprompter like that? I just thought he was a little hesitant. They're great lines, but they're written, obviously. It seems like if you're going to say it with some punch, you sort of memorize the line and then sing it.
Senator McCain needs a total, game-changing plan. It has not been a good week for him. He has looked defensive. His speeches haven't been good. The last time we actually saw him speak eloquently and really seem at ease was when he spoke before the NAACP a couple weeks ago. This was not a good week for him.
That was a good night for him. Jim, what do you make of this performance this week? Is he cranky? Is he Mr. Wilson yelling at the kids on his lawn? I think he has a good case to make, but I have had a bad temper in the past occasionally. Is he too cranky?
I don't think he was too cranky, and I think he ended on a high note with that speech. It was a pretty powerful speech with a lot of good language, and he just kept pounding home on the surge. But the big story, I think, this week, obviously, are the photo images, and he got crushed on that. The campaign released late today Beyond the Photo Op, and this little 15-page manifesto on everything that Obama did wrong and all the controversy over the week.
Who's going to read that?
Who's going to read it? It's meaningless, and he just got pounded.
It's funny, Jim, because the Republican administration of Ronald Reagan took pride in its ability to deal in pictures. Let's take a look here. Well, your thoughts on this, DeRoy. I know you may have a different view. What is it of this week? If you had to put it all together, what's the message to the American voter of this past week?
Well, I think you can appreciate the message just by hitting the mute button on your television, looking at the imagery. The pictures of Barack Obama in the Tiergarten in Berlin talking to 200,000 people, apparently an entire mile full of people there, look like something out of a Cecil B. DeMille production. And you can pick apart a comment here and a comment there, but you're just left with this tremendous sense of almost a growing inevitability of his election. Whether you agree or disagree with him, it's very, very hard to compete against that kind of imagery and that kind of a sense of this young man who I think many people accurately say is not that experienced, but that is countered by this tremendous outpouring that you see on the screen right now.
Did he thread the needle? And this is a tough one for any of us in any work, let alone walking the world stage like you see him there on that runway. Did he thread the needle between humility and hubris? Did he make it where he had to make it to be a commanding presence on the world stage without looking presumptuous? You first, DeRoy.
I don't think he looked presumptuous. I think what he needed to do on this trip is to look presidential, despite his only, going on 4 years, I guess, in the U.S. Senate. And in terms of atmospherics, in terms of symbolism, I think he was able to meet that challenge. What he said in particular, the specifics, the substance, you can raise a lot of questions about that. But in terms of the look, he certainly presented himself very well, I think.
Jim, is this just going to be a story that ends after a week of visuals? It basically was a star turn. People tell me what he's doing here is basically putting a finger in the dike, holding up the problem about being weak on foreign affairs so that he can spend the next 3 months banging away at gas prices, home heating costs coming up this winter, the job situation, the weak dollar, the kitchen table stuff. He wants to get beyond this stuff because he knows he can't win on this stuff, but he could lose on it.
I think he will. I think he'll turn to that soon. We'll see what happens with the Veep selection. I think it's interesting, though. Everyone's been so focused on the polls this week. I think they're almost meaningless at this point. It was Gallup that looked a couple weeks ago back 15 presidential elections and found that in only 3 recent presidential elections out of 9 that were closely decided were the early polls accurate. So I think a lot of this is very premature. And
yeah, well, let's say we do think it's interesting to see how the new polls come out next week that will include Barack Obama's foreign trip. Here's the latest Gallup tracking poll as of from the last 2 days. Since Wednesday, July 23rd, it's the 25th today, Obama has gained 2 points up to 47, and John McCain has dropped 2 points to 41. Obama now leads by 6 points. Do you think that Michelle, is a real lead that means something, or is it dangerous that a Barack, no matter how good the news, can't seem to get above 48? Even when everything's swimmingly for him, there's something that is it ethnicity, race, whatever, that stops the majority of the American people from saying, he's our guy.
Yeah,
What's stopping him?
I think that this election is going to be a referendum on Barack Obama. It's his election to win or lose. I don't know what's stopping people. I think that it is a mixture of things. I think it's the fact that he's African American, and I think that one of the reasons this trip was good for him and for his candidacy is people needed to see if he looked like a president. He was very good at invoking the image of Ronald Reagan and invoking the image of John F. Kennedy. Did he look like a diplomat? He was able to do it. Would he be good on the foreign stage? He was able to do it, and I think this is a slight bounce.
We have to look at this. This is too funny. This is former President Bush expressing his open jealousy of what Barack got from the world this week.
Mr. President, as a former head of state, having the sensitivities about protocol and appearance overseas, do you have any concerns about the appropriateness of the scale of events Senator Obama plans to conduct in Europe, for example?
A little jealous is all.
That's our colleague Kelly O'Donnell asking that great question, but what a great, honest answer. We'll be right back with the Roundtable for more of the politics. We're back with the Roundtable for more of the politics fix, and what a week it is because we're getting premonitions, intimations that we might be getting a vice presidential nominee named. Let's start with the Republicans. Jim Popkin, I can sense that the only reason that McCain would announce so prematurely a VP was to get some attention, but also he's more or less decided it's got to be Romney. I would be surprised if it's anybody else at this point.
I think it's likely that he may go next week. I think he wants to move away from the images that we've all been talking about, move away from the horrific supermarket scene, and create a little juice, a little energy leading into the Olympics.
But it's a point of no return. If he picks somebody and they're the wrong person, has to withdraw them, he loses the election probably.
Then you've got a Dan Quayle issue where you're backpedaling for weeks and weeks. Yeah.
Michelle, your feeling about the premonitions we're getting? There's a lot of leaks. The Washington Post today. Bob Novak, of course, the other day talking of an announcement by the Republican candidate John McCain of his running mate coming up very soon.
Well, I think he's got to do something soon because the tide of the media coverage is completely against him. He needs something to reinvigorate his campaign, and the only thing that's left right now is to name his vice presidential nominee. That being said, he does not have a great stable of people to look at, and his campaign needs very serious wow factor, and he needs it right now.
DeRoy, what do you think? Do you sense I'd like to see some strength on his part and say, I'll do it on my own time when I have to pick the right guy. There's no coming back. I'm a leader. I decide on my schedule. Would he do it like pick a VP just to get a couple days of ink?
I suspect by now he probably has it narrowed down to a list of 2 or 3 names, maybe just one name. It certainly would get him back on the radar. He's been off the radar this week. I hope he does not pick Mitt Romney. Of course, Mitt Romney was a big spender in Massachusetts, and there was just a story on NBC Nightly News 1 or 2 nights ago about the Mitt Romney's health care plan, which apparently is spinning totally out of control. It's $150 million off budget, and you're going to have stories about Mitt Care and how it's blown up in Massachusetts, and that's going to dog the McCain campaign if he's the VP choice. So I hope he does not pick Mitt Romney as his running mate.
Well, that's good reporting and also good attitude there, of course. Let me ask you, DeRoy, about the other side. Let's look at the Democrats right now. I have a sense that's not going to happen soon, but he does want to do it before the convention. If I were him, I'd wait till the convention. What do you think?
I think so too. I think you do it just right before the convention.
What do you think, DeRoy?
Yeah, I think either just before or at the convention, it would add some drama and excitement, and I think Bob Kerrey of Nebraska would be a very good choice for him.
I agree. Do it at the convention. I think this is going to be an excellent convention. His speeches are going to be fantastic, and what adding the Veep at that time does, we don't know. It'll be very interesting to see.
Thank you very much, DeRoy Murdoch, Michelle Bernard, and Jim Popkin. Join us again Monday night at 5 and 7 Eastern for more Hardball. Right now, it's time for Race for the White House with David Gregory.
This weekend marks 100 days until Election Day. So what tops the candidates' to-do list now as the race for the White House rolls on?